solicitor. We present a witness, I ask him questions, he gives me answers. It's then subject to questions from the Board of Supervisors, and then I assume from parties and ladies and gentlemen in the audience, Mr. Crowder. Is that
That's
fair
correct.
statement? So that's the order we'd like to proceed. And we'd like to go ahead and do that if the board has no further questions of me. Very well. And I call my first witness, and that's Mr. Ginty. Mr. Ginty, you have to stand and be sworn. Oh, one thing, please, I was remiss. We did hand out copies of previously marked exhibits in support of the application, and I have to admit, I did not anticipate the number of people coming and requesting party status, so I have 4 copies of the exhibits we previously marked, and with the board's permission, I'll just put them over here behind the court recorder. And if we need to supply extras, we will in fact do that.
Charles Ginty, G-I-N-T-Y.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Chuck, would you please?
Sorry, John. Before we get to that, if anyone isn't able to receive a copy of the exhibits that the applicant has left on the table over there, if you could just note it for the record, that way we can make sure to ask the applicant to provide that to you for the next hearing.
Thank you. Chuck, could you please state your name and current business address?
My name is Charles Ginty, and I live at 726 West Dolan Road in Unionville, Pennsylvania.
And what is your occupation?
I am a building and restoration contractor, and I've been in business since in this area of Chester County since 1970.
And I'm going to ask you if you can try and speak into that mic directly so everybody in the back of the room can hear you. Are you a member of the Bawa Mujahideen Fellowship, currently the applicant on this application before East Battlefield Township?
Yes, I am.
And are you here this evening with authority to speak on behalf of the congregation in support of this application?
Yes, I am.
Were you a member of the congregation and active in processing an application back in early 2000, which ultimately ended up in the settlement stipulation I referred to in my opening narrative dated May 22nd, 2012, between the Board of Supervisors of the Township, the East Battlefield Township Zoning Hearing Board, and the Fellowship?
Yes.
Could you give a brief explanation of what transpired, Chuck, back then to lead to the settlement stipulation or settlement agreement that was ultimately entered into in May of 2012?
I prepared a brief history of our relationship with the township when we first bought the property, which was in 1980, 36 years ago. We purchased 58 acres off of Mount Carmel Road, South Mount Carmel Road. And in 1987, members of the fellowship purchased an additional 50 acres adjacent to this 57 acres. And in 1990, we started the development of the planned institutional development under the zoning ordinance section 1704.12. In February of 2000, we filed a conditional use hearing, submitted a plan for 43 homes with community buildings. This was, the 43 homes was a result of us being allowed 1 home for every 2.5 acres. And it was 108 acres, so that translated to 43 homes that we were allowed to build. We were told we could build at that time. We applied for this conditional use hearing on February 6th of 2000 to start the process. 1704 is a conditional use. And on February 15th, 2000, the Board of Supervisors deleted this 1704-12 from their zoning ordinance. In November 2001, we applied for a zoning variance to reduce the house setback to allow for a cluster design of a community. We're attempting to develop a European-style kind of village community. In order to do that, we needed to cluster in order to do that, we needed to have a setback that the houses could be built 20 feet from the road instead of 50 to achieve the village design. In June of 2002, the zoning board granted that variance. And then from 2002 to 2008, we worked on the planned institutional development and the home village concept with the various state, county offices and East Fellowship engineer going back and forth with different ideas and different plans, and the Chester County Health Department for sewage and all the related DEP and NPDS requirements. So we spent quite a bit of time doing a full preliminary plan, thinking that we were going to be moving ahead since we've been granted the 43 houses through the clustering capability. In June of 2008, we prepared to submit this preliminary plan for the 43 houses. And we submitted it to the township engineer for his comments. It was pretty much the final plan that we'd come up with at that point. Now, in October of 2008, the Board of Supervisors sent us a letter stating that our variance that we received from the zoning board had expired, and we needed to reapply for that same variance, and which we did shortly afterwards. And then we received that zoning variance in October 2009. They reinstated the same variance that we had received earlier. At that time, the East Fallowfield Board of Supervisors appealed their zoning board's decision of reinstatement for us. And they made that appeal, they took that appeal to the Chester County Court of Common Pleas. And then in 2012, the Chester County Court of Common Pleas sustained the Board of Supervisors' appeal. In other words, they decided to vote in favor, the court did, in favor of the Board of Supervisors appealing that zoning which we received. So shortly after that, we filed an appeal to the judge's decision. And that kind of started a series of meetings with the township on a more serious basis. And as a result of those meetings, we agreed to go along with the township's proposal to us from a man named Tom Committa, who designed a 23-lot subdivision instead of a 43-lot subdivision. And we accepted that. We said, well, that's fine. We have 23 members who want to build houses. This is a non-profit development project here. These are retirement homes for the people within the community, and they all have donated money to achieve this. So we only had 23 signed up at the time, so we said, well, that's fine. We don't want to go to court. We don't want to drag this thing out, so let's settle. So we accepted the settlement, and that settlement became final on July 2012, signed by the court. And so here we are now, 16 years later.
Thank you for that history. Did we